Hello again, Nobody here, and this is my boy, Sherwood. Say hello, Sherwood.
Hello!
Today we'll be looking at the current compilation and review standards.
That's a big topic, Mr. Nobody, and the concepts seem to change all the time.
True, Sherwood, but one of the biggest challenges that remains is when you have to have a report.
Gee, Mr. Nobody, that seems like it would be easy. You work on financial statements and you write a report.
Not so, Sherwood. To require a report, you would have to submit financial statements, and that would mean submitting to management financial statements that you have prepared.
Golly, that sounds confusing. So where are we going today, Mr. Nobody?
Not where, but when, Sherwood. Set the Go Back machine to the year 1494.
Where to, Mr. Nobody?
To Italy to meet the father of double-entry bookkeeping, Luca Pacioli.
Debits must equal credits.
Wow, Mr. Nobody, look at the size of that book.
That, Sherwood, is the Summa di Arithmetica, Geometria, Proportioni et Proporzionalità, or the Summa for short. The Summa contains the basis of double-entry bookkeeping.
Gee, Mr. Pacioli, why did you name it the Summa?
Because the assets are equal to the sum of the liabilities and the equity.
Oh, I thought it was because you wrote it in the Summa.
Where are you going to now, Mr. Pacioli?
To Milan to visit one of my students, Leonardo da Vinci.
I never knew that Da Vinci was a student of Pacioli, Mr. Nobody.
It's true, Sherwood. In fact, Pacioli was an inspiration for some of Da Vinci's greatest masterpieces.
But why visit him now, Mr. Pacioli?
He says he needs a compilation.
Well, that would require a relationship between Mr. Da Vinci, the accountant, and the user.
It'll take a lot more than that. He needs books.
Gee, Mr. Nobody, it would be awful hard to perform a compilation without financial records.
True, Sherwood, and Pacioli's system is the beginning of a financial framework which will also be required.
Leonardo, so nice to see you again. How's it going?
Not so good. I need a funding for my new project, and the bank won't budge without a compilation.
Look, Mr. Nobody, that's the Mona Lisa.
And she does not look pleased.
Gee, Mr. Nobody, he can't paint a masterpiece with her frowning like that.
Certainly not. Mr. Da Vinci, may we see your books?
Of course, take a look at anything you want.
Mr. Nobody, these don't look like financial records to me.
They appear to be actual books.
I just love to read. I have books on history, art, and even flight. Look at this. I'm gonna build that someday.
Mr. Nobody, I don't think Mr. Da Vinci has any idea what's involved in a compilation.
True. Mr. Da Vinci, your accountant will need to understand your business, your industry, read your financial statements, and then perform other procedures if necessary. Now, where are your financial statements?
I have no idea how to prepare them.
But Mr. Da Vinci, why don't you read Pacioli's Summa to learn how?
Read it where? It's all in his head, and he's not talking.
It's true. I've given up accounting for Lent.
But if I am not mistaken, the printing process was developed more than a quarter century ago by Johannes Gutenberg in Mainz, Germany.
Nobody told me.
Gee golly, Mr. Nobody, how is the accountant going to read the financial statements to look for math errors, spelling errors, bad titles, missing verbiage, and classification issues?
Without financial statements, he can't. Quickly, Sherwood, back to the Go Back machine. I suspect that something has gone terribly wrong back in the year 1450. Sherwood and I quickly ran to the Go Back machine, and soon we were back in 1450 in the city of Mainz, where we found Mr. Gutenberg amongst a pile of parts.
Gee, Mr. Nobody, I don't see how he can print anything here. That's just a pile of junk.
It's obvious, Sherwood, that Mr. Gutenberg has not yet built the press.
Maybe he's had more pressing issues.
Sherwood, I would suppose he's just depressed.
You're telling me I need the money to complete my greatest achievement, but my brother-in-law refuses to lend me the money.
Well, why not?
It seems I had a little problem a few years back with some magic mirrors. Go figure.
Oh, you must be referring to the exhibition of the relics from the Emperor Charlemagne. If I remember correctly, a great flood ruined the exhibit.
I bet that left him all wet.
Quite true, but an event like that could be a subsequent event that would have to be considered in the financial statements. No wonder the investors were angry.
Now my brother-in-law wants assurance I can pay him back before he lends me the money.
Gee golly, Mr. Nobody, how's he going to do that when bookkeeping won't even be invented for another 44 years?
He may not actually need financial statements, Sherwood, but just limited assurance. I have an idea. Come, Sherwood, we must hurry. So Sherwood and I quickly raced out of the building and straight to see Gutenberg's brother-in-law, Arnold Geltus. Mr. Geltus, it is imperative that you lend your brother-in-law the money to build his printing press.
I'm not lending him 1 cent without some assurance he can pay me back.
Gee, he looks pretty angry, Mr. Nobody.
Yes, Sherwood, he is surely one sour kraut. Mr. Geltus, what if I could offer some limited assurance through a review?
That might do the trick. Plus, I want to go down in history as lending him the money. It would make my wife happy.
Gee, Mr. Nobody, we already know from history that the printing press was a great success. Isn't that review evidence enough?
True, Sherwood, but in this case I believe we should go through the motions. So Sherwood and I quickly made various inquiries of people within Gutenberg's company and performed various analytical procedures as well.
Well, Mr. Geltus, nothing came to our attention that made us believe that your brother-in-law won't pay you back.
Okay, I'll do it.
And with cash in hand, we dashed back to Gutenberg. Within no time, he had built the press and printed the Summa. So with the Summa in hand, we took the go-back machine to Milan. Here you go, Mr. Da Vinci, the Summa. Now you can prepare your books for your accountant to perform a compilation for the bank.
His accountant will need to document his engagement as well.
That will vary by engagement, but it will require the engagement letter, significant findings, and any communications about fraud or illegal acts.
Hey, look, Mr. Nobody! Mona Lisa is smiling again.
Now that's a masterpiece.
Gee golly, Mr. Nobody, now the Mona Lisa will be admired by the world throughout history.
Not only that, Sherwood, but this also inspired Da Vinci to invent a new measure of distance.
Really?
Well, certainly, Sherwood. You mean to tell me you've never heard of the Mona Lisa's mile?